p.m. We're going to call this meeting to order. If you would please join me in the pledge to our flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Welcome fellow members of the Planning Commission. Welcome members of the public and the media. Madam Secretary, when you're ready, we'll call the members.
Mr. Pagan?
Here.
Mr. Duda?
Here.
Robertson's here. Mr. Heck? Absent. Mr. Lowenger?
Here.
Mr. Heck is excused. He told us last month he was going to be on vacation.
Mr. McLean?
Here.
Mr. Tenbush?
Here.
Mr. Ty?
Here.
And Mr. Walker?
Here. Everyone looked at the agenda. Are there any amendments to that agenda? Mr. Temple.
The only thing I'd like to change is down in unfinished business on the Huron County Master Plan. It states that we're still waiting for information from Clark Hill pertaining to renewable energy. Members must continue review. I'd just like to have that continue. I don't think we should wait any longer for Clark Hill's assessment. Go ahead and finish the master plan and get it turned over, and then if they have something substantial to change the words in there, then we can do so.
Right.
So we won't hold it up any longer because we got a lot on our docket.
Yes. I would like to get that wrapped up if we have time tonight.
Now, I'm just saying, scratch those words and put continue.
Which words do you want removed?
Still waiting for information from Clark Hill pertaining to, we can have it in there, but I mean, if you want to, but get rid of still waiting. I don't think we should wait any longer.
Well, we're going to have to.
Well, I mean, we're gonna have to wait, eventually, if they have anything significant change, then we already changed, because I understand the problem with the words that were in there on repowering. That was the biggest issue with the Board of Commissioners, and we reworded paragraph 3 on page 104 to at least, and I think I turned a copy in to you, Jeff, but.
I think we're fine with the
Okay.
verbiage that's there for now. It doesn't say that we can't work on it. Anybody else? One suggestion I have, we may entertain moving that site plan review up so that gentleman does not have to sit here all night.
I was going to suggest that.
Would you like to make that in the form of a motion, Barry?
I'd make a motion that under new business, item A, we move that up, you want to put it up to unfinished?
Yes.
Or you want, we can put it up before communications too.
I think unfinished is fine. We'll move it from D to A and move everything else out. How's that?
And also I was wondering about moving up PA 116, moving them ahead of before unfinished business. I guess what my point is, that way you guys, somebody wants to change something, is we should get rid of this other business before we go into reviewing the Huron County Master Plan or the hedges, because it's hard to time that. You know what I'm saying?
Right, then
So-
we're getting tight for time, yeah.
However you guys want to do it.
All right, why don't you put that all together in one motion, if you would, please?
All right, make a motion that we move up, I guess I already have that. Make a motion that we move up PA 116 and any other unfinished business. Move it up ahead of the Huron County Master Plan and the litigation plan.
Do we have any support for that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Tembush. Any further discussion? So we're gonna move
All new
7D up to make that A, and we'll move
Oh,
8B up as well. Correct?
What is seven?
No.
No, 7A.
All
A,
new.
all new business, we're moving up.
All new business.
New business,
Right, Bernie?
we got the
Right.
general, A, 8A, and 8B, so all new
Right.
business we are moving to.
Prior to
A and B.
unfinished business.
To A and B,
Mhm.
7A and 7B.
Just make it prior to unfinished business. Leave the
Mhm.
unfinished business section.
Well, yeah, we could,
Yeah,
that's what I
new
was-
business before unfinished business.
All members in favor of that motion? signify by
Aye.
saying
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on. Has everybody looked at the minutes of the January meeting? And read them? Are there any additions or corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve them as they stand.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from January 2nd, 2019,
I'll
as
support.
stated.
Motion by Tenbush, supported by Duda, to accept the minutes as they are presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, it's time for public comment. There will be 3 periods of public comment tonight, since we are holding a public hearing. The public input pertaining to the moratorium extension, I would suggest you use your time during that public input forum to cover that topic, but you're free to do whatever you would like. So at this point in time, I'll open the floor to public comment, first period. On any topic pertaining to planning and zoning, please stand, and when you're identified, you may speak. And please let us know who you are for our records keeping. Who would like to go first? Over by the windows there, Mr. Gaffney.
Robert Gaffkey, Bloomfield Township. During the May 2nd, 2017 election, Huron County had over 400 wind turbines in use. If wind energy is so great, why didn't Huron County voters choose to have more of them? Could it be that the citizens found the turbines intrusive, ugly, and loud, and found the developers that brought them here dishonest, arrogant, and in general a band of bullies? Or maybe it was brought on by county officials who ignored the people from Ubley who suffered from the interference and effects of improperly sited wind turbines and then had to file a lawsuit against the wind developer and were then gag ordered never to talk about the case and the settlement that ensued. Or maybe it was a planning commission stacked with captured and conflicted members who worked as agents for wind developers and disgusted Huron County citizens. Or maybe enough people viewed the FOIA emails between county officials and wind developers like Nextera, DTE, and Heritage and said enough is enough. Or it could also be that citizens have heard county officials say, let's build some more turbines and try out the deficient 2015 ordinance. They are angry, but not surprised by these officials not following the will and directive of the people. I also think county officials need to study the substantive due process and see to it they don't violate a citizen's constitutional right to the Bill of Rights. The 2015 ordinance is deficient and needs amending. And we need to enact a moratorium on that. And just for the record, there are several documents where people can hear turbines from over a mile away, 3/4 of a mile away. Our own building and zoning director stood in my driveway taking measurements and could hear a turbine clunking 1.5 miles away. So, you know, the setbacks are not good enough, they're deficient and need to be revisited. Thank you.
Sir? Who's next? Anybody else that would like to utilize this first public comment period? This is Parsh.
Rita Parsh from E Township. In my view, as long as the master plan for a township or the county does not include measuring infrasound or even acknowledging that it exists, it's way deficient. Thank you.
You? Who's next? Anybody else that would like to utilize this first public comment period for any topic pertaining to planning and zoning? Seeing none, we will close this public comment portion of the meeting. Now time for the public hearing. We're going to open the public hearing. The topic is extension of the wind moratorium. For a little background, the commissioners asked this body last June to cease working on anything to do with modifying or updating the wind ordinance. The moratorium was already in place. They asked us to go ahead and work on solar and get that finished before we did anything further on wind. We have adhered to that. We told them at that point in time that there very well could be a time come when we need to extend this moratorium due to the loss of time to work on that topic. That time has now come before us, so that is why we are asking for this extension of the wind moratorium. That is not this planning commission trying to kick the can down the road or keep the moratorium in place forever or anything of that nature. We merely are asking for the time that we've lost since last June up until this point in time to get back to work on that. So, at this point in time, anybody that would like to speak on this wind moratorium extension, we'd like to hear your thoughts and ideas. Please raise your hand, and when you're recognized, stand and let us know who you are. Mr. Gaffney.
Yeah, I just want to comment on setbacks. Setbacks are deficient in Huron County. A 1.5 megawatt wind turbine, just like shooting a gun, it's a known physics. You know, so much energy can shoot a bullet so far. 1.5 can throw debris 1,935 feet. So Huron County setbacks are inadequate. And you'll see all over the country setbacks are said to be a compromise. The Planning Commission wants to compromise with landowners, and citizens feel that compromising with public safety is a very poor choice to compromise on. And another thing with the ordinance, there's no provision for ice throw. You know, I think a setback of 2,500 feet for a 1.5 is a doable and it should be a requirement. Are the county officials willing to accept responsibility for damages and injuries that occur when siting turbines too close to property? Developers and manufacturers certify that blades will last 20 years, and we all know that they can and do fly off every so often in Huron County. And then also, I'm just going to lay out some places where Huron County's failed to assess. There's been no margin found for increase in noise levels due to turbulence from other turbines. The 2015 does not fulfill the purpose and intent of the ordinance. There's no provision made for the limiting of size and output at the end of life of a wind park. The risk of regulatory default is not assessed. No provisions made for shutdown if complaints occurred during operation. Failure to assess the cost of litigation, such as the Clark Hill bills for the tax tribunal. Cost of litigation to have any developer shut off a turbine when deemed necessary by a court order. Cost of litigation, and a lot of other issues that I won't finish here, but there's a lot of deficiencies in the ordinance, and it really should be looked at. You know, we absolutely need a moratorium. You guys were pulled off of that for 9 months. You guys were working on it, and the citizens of Huron County deserve a decent ordinance, so thank you.
Thank you. Somebody with a hand up over on the wall there.
My name is Sally Keenan from Meade Township. I believe that the moratorium should stay in place, and the ordinance really needs, our master plan really needs more work. A lot of our townships that are self-zoning, mainly ours, is following actually the 2015, I believe, and it needs a lot of help. Like everywhere we need the health, safety, and welfare of the people protected, and I think 472 turbines is probably plenty. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentleman in the second row.
Daniel Baumring. I know that some of the commissioners and Mr. Smith have indicated they believe the current wind ordinance has not been tested, and that when the hearing was held concerning this ordinance, no one spoke up to voice concerns about the setbacks in the ordinance. I believe that many people were told that anyone who didn't want to be in the overlay could opt out. However, after the ordinance passed, the commissioners hired a law firm to look into the spot opt-out to see if it was legal. Their opinion was that it would be spot zoning. If this opinion had been obtained prior to the ordinance hearing, I believe that there would have been a huge outcry from the people without contracts that wanted to be left out of any possible wind overlay and development. This needs to be fixed. The setbacks need to be increased. No shadow flicker, no flashing red lights, and the noise level needs to be below LA max to the property line.
Sir? Who's next?
Richard Stein from Sherman Township. I have quite a time figuring out why when people would vote 2-1 not to have the wind turbines, they keep right on whipping on this old dead horse. If people don't want them, work with your people. Why would you listen to the wind company? Listen to what the people want. It seems odd to me that the DNR is concerned with the health and safety of the birds and bats for 3 miles all the way around the thumb, and that's okay. They're eliminated for those 3 miles. And yet you let human beings, public health, overrule, the turbines overrule the public health. We need to look at this seriously. We need to look a lot more places than you've been looking, because there are problems. And just ignoring them isn't going to let them go away. And one of the gentlemen that was on the planning commission made the statement after the vote was 2-1 that I think that Huron County, with almost 500 turbines, have done their duty. Let them go to another county. Let them go to another state. But, you know, why are we the poster child for all these wind turbines? We've got enough of them. It's time to pass it on.
Thank you. Who's next? Mrs. Parsh.
Rita Parsh, Mead Township. I have sat at these meetings and Mead Township meetings and Mead Township planning meetings off and on over probably the last 5 years, 4 years, whatever, I lost track. The point is that the term repowering never even came up. It was always decommissioning. Oh, we gotta have a big bond, big money for that. So people were thinking, oh, okay, so after they say 10, 12, 15 years, first it was 25, then it goes back. Well, they don't really last that long after all. And now all of a sudden in the last year and a half, 2 years, the term repowering is coming. So I'm assuming that either everybody knew it except me, that they could be repowered, because we were told by DTE and others that the technology would advance far quicker than what the turbine base that they put in. So if and when that one dies or has to be decommissioned, that's it. You either put one up just like it or they're not there anymore. So, and the 3 mile thing, I agree with you, but there's also a little sad story. We were invited to this office over here by Mike Seraphin, I believe, yes, and to come in and look at some maps. And I was talking about bats and the fact that my friend, who had one turbine planned for her property, wasn't able to have the second one because it was too close to the Pinnebog River, it was too close to the bat area. Well, after Mead Township voted 60-40 that we did not want to accept DTE's wind overlay district, the second turbine went up on her forested near the river land. So then Mike Seraphin explained that, and I hope I get this right, I was not correct in thinking that the bats, they are drawn to turbines scientifically, they don't know why yet, but they're drawn to them, and I thought their hearts exploded and their lungs exploded. But he quickly corrected me and said, no, you've got it wrong, Mrs. Parsh, they implode. So a bat flying near one would be crushed, and they have what dolphins use, you know, kind of like sonar. So if they can't avoid it, then I think we're all sunk. Thank you.
Who would like to speak next? Gentleman in the second row.
I'm Dennis Listewski from Blanking Township, and I think it was, if I recall, it was in 2017, that the residents of the county spoke at the election, and it seems that it's not being absorbed what the results were. I mean, what part of no doesn't the commissioners and the planning people understand? I mean, it's kind of simple, but it doesn't seem to be getting translated into that message. It's, you know, yanking around every other way, and it's not getting put into effect. I mean, what was the purpose of having an election if you're not going to go by what you got the results from? It's just a lot of BS. And as far as the moratorium, I mean, that's kind of just a temporary thing too. I know sometimes you need those. But I mean, I think if we're going to do a moratorium, we ought to look at more years, not just this 1 year thing. Because we got all kinds of, you know, got to update the bylaws and all this stuff. So, I mean, we should at least go for at least a 5 or 10 year moratorium so we can get this stuff straightened out, not go through the same process year after year. You know, what can you get accomplished that way? And it's, you know, and it's just making all this, you know, confusion and stuff. It's just making trouble. And, you know, you only can make so much trouble before you have an eruption. And you know, that's not a good thing. So you got to look at everything and, you know, give the people what they asked for and told you what they wanted and go forward from there. Thank you very much.
Sure. Who's next? Is there anybody else before we close this public hearing that wants to express their concerns on this topic? Anybody at all? Seeing none, at this point in time, we're going to close the public hearing. Membership, your thoughts? Have you read the paperwork on the moratorium extension? Are you comfortable with it? We have changed some of the verbiage. We have the updated version in your hand. Yes. Okay, let's stop for a minute here. Jeff just indicated that we did have one written communication. Let's hear it.
This letter was received in my office on January 31st. It says, Dear Honorable Planning Commissioners, my husband and I support the extension of the moratorium on wind turbine construction. Please add our 2 votes in favor of extending the moratorium on wind energy turbine construction. We live in Siegel Township. Sincerely, Carolyn and Dwayne Guzak.
Thank you, Jeff. Membership, what's your pleasure? Mr. Kemlish.
Yes, first I want to thank everybody for their comments. And secondly, on the amendment, all of the section 10.2 issues that were captured are all very applicable to, you know, what we are faced with, and especially when we were shut down, number 16. I think it's only fair that it be extended. I don't know the time frame, but it's a year down here, or whether or not we actually get it done. I believe it can be done. If we, like you said last time, due diligence and get to work on it.
I think probably 9 months or less will wrap it up, but we've got to finish the solar first so that we can still abide by the commissioner's wishes to not work on that till that solar's done. We're getting there on the solar. That's my feeling. Anybody else? Mr. Ty.
I think it's a conservative and perfect recommendation to the Board of Commissioners to accept our recommendation that the moratorium be established for the year.
Okay. I would also note of the people that have spoken tonight, most were under county zoning, and I heard nothing saying, no, we shouldn't extend the moratorium. comments from the members. Mr. Granger.
Bob, we formed the WIN committee. Myself, you and Ken, and Doc was on it. And I think we were progressing quite well when we were told to stop it.
Right.
And we were doing that on our, might say our own time. That wasn't part of this board. And I believe, Bob, you supported even the idea of doing the solar that way at one time. We
Doing what?
The solar, we should have had a subcommittee work on it on the side. And that didn't work either. And I think if we would have kept going, this would be done by now.
I like your point, and I totally agree with the fact that we weren't getting paid to go to those meetings, so we were being very fiscally responsible to the county. I don't have a problem with doing a subcommittee again, but the message we got from home office was cease and desist, which we did respect, irregardless of what was printed in the paper a number of times. We have conformed to that since that date and time. Anyone else? Hearing nothing, I will entertain a motion on this topic to continue on or to cease. Which would you like to do? Sam Bush.
I'll make a motion that we approve the extension to the moratorium for the stated term for the moratorium and accept it as written.
You're referencing version 3? Says up at the top.
Yes, and if you need it specifically, I mean, like I said before, almost all of the issues that were captured are good. My favorite one was 16. You know, that's what we followed direction.
Right.
So, that's what I base my motion on.
Okay. We have support for such motion. Motion by Temler, supported by Duda. Any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Creighton,
No.
Mr. Duda,
Yes.
Jefferson, yes. Beck is absent. Mr. Lowinger,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Yes.
Mr. Tenbush,
Yes,
Mr. Ty,
Yes.
Mr. Walker.
Yes.
Motion is approved. This will be forwarded to the commissioners. It will be in their hands for their next meeting next Tuesday. Correct? No?
Well, we'll see. But, yeah, we'll get it done.
What's your apprehension?
I think, I just start thinking of the word we can get on the agenda.
Commissioner Corey? Will you be able to put this on your agenda for next week? Or get you the paperwork?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Okay, moving on, communications, number 5. A, letter from the village of Sebring pertaining to the Parks and Rec master plan. Anything you'd like to talk about that?
Done, and, there's some forms we've had to fill out and send in, and we're waiting on the
Second item, Huron County Hazard Mitigation Plan process has started. The survey is out. I know for a fact, I did see it at the library in Ubley. It's also online. Please, everyone, go somewhere and fill out that form. It's not that lengthy. We would appreciate your input on it. Randy, would you like to give us any updates or anything on this time?
We can wait till later on the agenda.
Okay.
And continue on with what you were, I think your purpose was to get the other folks out of here, so I can wait.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to encourage the public wholeheartedly, as you just did, to look that up and take that survey. It's a very good survey. It's well-written, well put out, and it's easy to take and to submit it. Because the more information we have from the public, the better we can do our job, so.
Here to the end of the table, and let us know the latest on this project. As some of the members recall, I'm sure we've had this site plan for this project before us before. There was a little hiccup found,
A glitch, yep.
and so they had to resubmit the plan because they moved still.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. Appreciate everybody's time tonight. My name is Mike McPherson with Atwell. I'm a civil engineering consultant for the project. Essentially, we were before you, I think, maybe like May of 2018, I believe. At that time, this project was site plan approved. This is a proposed Dollar General. It's actually in Bingham Township. It's to serve the Ubley area. We had gone through all the county's site plan review procedures and actually all the other three-party permits that we needed. And when the developer went to close on this site, it was uncovered that there was a collection line, Exelon collection line that ran parallel to McTaggart Road. And after coordinating with Exelon, they wanted us to shift the parking lot back so that there was 10 feet separation between the collection line and the edge of the parking lot. So essentially that's what we did, is we shifted the parking lot and also shifted the building with the parking lot. So this is essentially the same layout, same number of parking spaces, the building is exactly the same, still have our detention in the rear. It's still going to be served by septic with public water. Actually, all of our permits are updated through the road and drain has already looked at the detention again. The health department has looked at the slightly reconfigured septic and they're fine with that. MDOT is, we already had an MDOT permit for the crossing for our water lead connection, so that stayed in place. And they're working with us on our detention back here. There's a clear vision piece owned by MDOT just to the south because of the railroad and the angles. So they're working with us on that, and that's really our last little piece, and it's looking very promising. So, without getting into too much detail, that's really as simple as it is that we had to shift everything down, and everything essentially remains the same, parking, building wise. So we're back tonight to ask for your reapproval of the project, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Basically, the building and the parking lot both got pushed back 10 feet.
That's correct.
Any questions from the membership? Mr. Timber?
Was there any loss of parking? Because I remember that was a
Yeah, 'cause they were under.
It's the exact,
section we made
yep,
last time. so.
exact same number of parking spaces as was previously approved.
The setback from the road for your sign stayed the same, because we had that issue too, which we worked with you on.
Yeah, we have to look at that. We do have the sign got shifted south,
Correct.
away from the collector line, so it's further away from McTaggart, and it's
Stayed the same from M19.
I believe it stayed the same from M19. Yes. So, and before the meeting, I know it was noted that the southeast corner of the building has a dimension of 29 feet 7 inches, with setback being 30 feet. Our intention is to have it at 30 feet, so we would, if there's a motion to approve, we would entertain a condition of making sure that's 30 feet. That's not a problem.
30 feet is our required setback, we're just a few inches shy of moving the building back where it's situated in this drawing. That's one thing that I had seen. We could ask them to go to the ZBA if they wanted to keep it there. Mr. McPherson indicated that they would keep the building in compliance.
Yeah, not our intention to seek a variance. That's correct. Yeah, we could comply with that by moving it over a few inches.
And then on your approach coming in to the driveway,
Yep.
I understand that's gonna be a double thickness of asphalt before you come in and do any site.
Yeah, it's either going to be double thickness of asphalt or it's going to be concrete. We're still going back and forth with Exelon a little bit on that, but the plan is right now that Exelon's going to have a representative on the site prior to construction starting. This drive is going to get built. Make sure that there's all proper protections in place for their collection lines. And then during construction, that way, construction traffic will use a constructed paved entrance. And the rest of the area that's along McTaggart, that's over the collection lines essentially, will be, have like an orange construction fence to make sure we keep everybody off of it to protect those lines, yeah.
Anyone else have any questions? Anyone like to put a motion on the table? Motion by Duda, supported by Craig, to accept the site plan as stated. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote please.
Mr. Pager?
Yes.
Mr. Duda?
Yes.
Epperson, yes. Absent, Mr. Lounger?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Mr. Tenbush?
Yes.
Mr. Ty?
Yes.
And Mr. Walker?
Yes. Motion is approved.
Appreciate it. Everybody have a great night.
I hope to see you breaking ground there this spring.
After,
Thank you for making the trip and letting us in.
no problem. Yep, thanks a lot.
Have a safe trip. Okay, moving on. Item 8B, which was moved up, which is PA 116 enrollments. We have one from Wayne Medetsky. Jeff, what is this?
It's qualifies for the moment, meets all the specifications.
There are no buildings involved,
Correct. It's part of
so
a
all tillable.
additional acreage that's already enrolled, that was purchased at a different time, so he's asking to enroll this and then eventually, I believe, enroll all of it together in one agreement, but the way the statute provisions work is you have to enroll it as a separate agreement first. And that's why it says for 49 years, that way it'll match the date of its existing land that surrounds it. So eventually that can be combined to one enrollment and one tax parcel also.
Good. Okay. So this is just a little piece off of the 140.
Yeah. East side of the building site.
Okay. Any members have any further questions for Jeff on this topic? Not, I'll entertain a motion. Go ahead, Mr.
I'll support it.
What is that motion?
Make a motion that we pass P 160 for Wayne Levesque.
Motion to approve by Mr. Krager, support by Mr. Duda. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Alright. Roll up your sleeves, let's get to work here on this, rest of this unfinished business. Does everyone have a copy of the master plan? I'll call your attention to page 106. Everybody got it out? There you go. Bernie's still digging.
I got it.
Got it? Start at the top, let's look at this page, see if there's anything that we see wrong, or anything that we want to correct or eliminate. page? Mr. Walker, put your hand up.
Hate to back up, but there was one thing we didn't get to that I wanted to get to on 104 and 105.
Okay. Let's deal with this page first.
All right.
Start reading it. We can go back to that. Jeff, do you have your PDF file of this handy? Say if you do, put it up on the overhead for the public to see. Comments on 106. Everybody good with that? Alright, Mr. Walker wants us to go back to 104 and 5 or just 5?
Well, one of those. It's under it'll be under the action plan for wind energy.
Alright, it starts on 104 at the bottom. Go ahead, sir.
I have a paragraph I'd like added. Might want some help with the wording here, but, and it actually got brought up tonight by Rita Parsh. I'd like to add in there, in light of concerns expressed by county residents as well as new information published on adverse health effects of low-frequency sound, no new construction of wind turbines shall occur until safe human exposure levels of low-frequency sound are established and added to the county wind ordinance.
Membership, what's your thoughts?
Sounds like a good addition. Excellent. Excellent. That's been brought up when we were moving 2015, but kind of got pushed aside.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Concerns, comments? Mr. Ty?
My comment's pretty general, but it goes something like, the management principle, it goes something like ready, fire, aim.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're dealing now with the aim part of that management formula. And this would be one of the areas that is worth targeting.
If you've got that verbiage written down there, Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Okay. You hand that down. Do we want to add that at the bottom of the 9 items that are there, or have you got a particular spot?
It could be item 10.
Okay. Everybody good with that?
Could
Kimball?
could I ask that you read it one more time?
Yes. To add to the master plan, in light of concerns expressed by county residents, as well as new information published on adverse health effects of low-frequency sound, no new construction of wind turbines shall occur until safe human exposure levels of low-frequency sound are established and added to the county wind ordinance.
Thank you.
One thing that I see that comes to mind we could put in there, and I guess it's covered by added. I was gonna say we could change the word added to addressed. So these provisions are addressed in the county ordinance. Which do you prefer, added or addressed? Addressed in the county ordinance or added to the county ordinance? Or does it matter?
I really don't think it matters either way, but it's an excellent thing to have in there, only because, but the danger and the heartburn is gonna come from no further construction.
Right.
And to my knowledge, there's no specification, I believe, on infrasound other than what's starting to be addressed. So it brings up a good point, you know, do we continue and put the health and safety of constituents and ourselves in danger without having that information? Because more and more studies are being conducted as we speak and have been conducted, so.
And I feel no more wind turbine development is just fine, because I feel those issues need to be addressed.
And I agree, I'm just saying there's gonna be some heartburn on that,
So be it.
I understand.
And I think it's, you know, it's one of our key elements that we have to hit in any topic on planning and zoning is health, safety, and welfare of the community. That comes above making money or any other thing. So it's a very valid point. There are pros and cons both ways. Some people say it's settled, others don't. It remains to be seen. There are no ANSI standards at this point in time stipulated that this is the threshold. But then again, this was looked into by the U.S. Army years ago to utilize as a weapon. Just for testing. You know, the only reason they didn't adopt it as a weapon was the fact that it wasn't controllable, because you don't know if you expose Mr. Walker to it, he's gonna react one way, Mr. Temler's gonna react another way, and Mr. Krager may react another way. There's no uniform response from humans on it, and that's why it's such a hot button topic as well. Okay, so shall we put it on, just on number 10 then?
Bob?
Yes.
I think probably your idea in that being addressed would be better instead of added.
Addressed in the county wind ordinance. Okay, thank you.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Is, you've got it worded, low frequency sound, correct? I'm not up with the literature. Is that the same as infrasound, or are
No.
those two different concepts?
Two different concepts, and that's a good point. Low frequency, depending on the person, can include infrasound. And just to give you the numbers, 20 hertz to 200 hertz is low frequency. 20 hertz and under is infrasound. So the 20 hertz is the threshold to go.
Could you add that in there, please?
Okay, you want to put both in there?
Yes.
So we cover the frequency spectrum of 0 to 200 hertz.
Yes.
Well, I can just extend that sentence out, then, addressed in the county wind ordinance pertaining to sound spectrum of 0 to 200 hertz.
Or you could say low frequency and infrasound.
Which do you prefer?
Well, you wouldn't have to put specification in there, it's a known name, nomenclature, so.
Yeah. Now, the reason I tend to be specific on it is in light of, you know, what happened in the Elmer Court case. They had 45 not to exceed, and then they got into the big hoopla in the federal court over that. One guy said this, the other guy said that, type of thing. So if we put the spec in there, we're covered.
Well, like Bernie said, we're gonna address it, okay? And the specification specificity may be in the ordinance.
So,
In the master plan, we just have to state, we're gonna address infrasound and we're gonna address low frequency, okay?
so I'm gonna just add in there pertaining to low frequency and infrasound.
Correct. I think that covers it.
Everybody's good with that? Okay. Anything else from those pages?
On it,
That much more?
I'm not on that issue, but then I have another issue on 105.
Okay, let's hear it.
On number 8, we mentioned repowering back on page 104, paragraph 3. And so just to clean up that phrase, it should probably say, on the 4th line, or the operator may choose to repower, which instead of would, put in the word may,
Yes.
necessitate the process to obtain approvals. Now, the one, let me back up, I'm sorry. Number 8, line 3, after the comma, where it says, under terms of existing permits, and I'd like to add the words, and original specifications.
This is the third line on 8.
Yes. And original existing permits and original specifications, or the operator may choose to repower, which may then necessitate the process to obtain new approvals to demonstrate compliance with current zoning ordinance requirements, if applicable.
Okay, yeah, that sounds very good.
Where are we gonna add the, if applicable?
Right, with your corrections, and you'll read that whole line now, so everybody
Okay, I'll just,
sees how it
you know,
flows.
if the operation is damaged or subsequently inoperated because of an inclement weather event, a tornado, wildfire, or other unforeseen hazards, the operator may choose to rebuild damaged structures or components under the terms of existing permits, I added, and original specifications. Or the operator may choose to repower, which may then necessitate the process to obtain new approvals to demonstrate compliance with current zoning ordinance requirements, if applicable. And the rest stands as is.
Everybody good with that? Move along now. Next, page 108, everybody was good with that? As is? Is that correct?
108,
Very too many pages over. Okay, moving on to 107. Any comments, additions, corrections on 107? Leave it as is? Don't everybody speak at once.
Well, we got Lincoln and Sherman, with, started by Lincoln.
Right.
Last I heard, Lincoln is not gonna move forward with cell phone.
Yeah, that's-
Melvin Drake is here, he could ask his opinion if you want. He's sitting there saying,
No,
Melvin?
Carl, no.
Oh.
what,
I don't think that's appropriate to.
am I hearing an issue on 107?
Yeah, Carl's got a concern, he's not sure if Lincoln is gonna follow through on getting their own
On cell
zoning
phone.
together.
Right, last I
But
heard,
it doesn't matter.
don't matter
It's
really.
not up to us,
Right,
they're gonna
right.
do what they're gonna do. Technically, that's why we have zoning
Changes
laws.
can happen to this master plan at any time.
Right, same
So-
with Lincoln, I mean,
Yes,
sure.
Yep, anyhow.
It's just acknowledging due to the votes.
Yeah.
That was there for.
Right.
The one thing that I do see here, down on the bottom, last paragraph, second line. County's own townships is enrolled in PA 116, which ensures the land stays agricultural. Do we wanna use the word ensures?
Right, you
You know,
can't put it
it's
up.
not a guarantee, it's
No.
not a definite,
Encourages?
which, yeah, as we say, encourages or promotes.
Right.
The way I read that, Bob, though, is that as long as it's in 116, it insures the land.
But we know it can be changed, that's the only issue.
But, well, if you take it out of 116, then.
Yeah, if you're in 116, and somebody comes up and hands you a big pile of cash to come out of 116 so you can do something,
Right.
you can get out of it.
But it still ensures that it's in if it's in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's minor. I mean, it's just a matter of verbiage.
Splitting hairs.
Yeah. Not a big deal. Leave it? Okay. All right.
I got, you wanna wait?
Okay.
Second sentence, or second,
Line.
yeah, second line,
The word.
located throughout 2 counties should be the county.
Right. I think we addressed that. Bernie, you had something?
That was the same one.
Okay. Anybody have anything on 108? Other than the one word. Go to 109. Anything there? Everybody's good with it? Moving on to 110. Jeff, do you happen to know for a fact that 9,700 acres is accurate? Where did you get that figure? Alan?
I'm sure they probably use the GIS layers to calculate state land.
Sound reasonable to you, George?
I couldn't say.
Okay. Didn't know if you have a handle on that or not.
I would like to point out they completely omitted the 2 state parks. They're all talking about game areas.
Right.
There's nothing about the 2 state parks, which are very significant components of our county in terms of tourism and the economy and, land. So,
How many acres is Sleeper?
Now you're gonna embarrass me. I should know that by heart. And, I'm gonna say, if you don't hold me to it, I'll say 800 acres.
Oh, that's fine.
But Port Crescent is more. Now, Port Crescent is in Huron Township.
Part of it, like,
So, then,
I think you make a good appropriate point, so this needs updating. This needs to add those two facilities in and confirm that this 9,700 is correct.
Mhm.
What would you like to put in that first paragraph?
well.
Should we put a different paragraph in just to address those two entities? Because we've got the breakdown below this of county parks.
State parks should be a separate category.
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Is that something, you could write up? fairly quick?
Sure.
Could you?
Like right now?
Yeah. That would be beautiful. Not to put any pressure, or put you on the spot. I mean, we don't have much further to go on these pages. If we want, we can come back to it.
Yeah, I need a few minutes.
Okay.
I just
Well, let's-
whip it up right away.
Right.
The other thing, Bob,
Yes.
you could just mention that have them include it when they revise their draft.
Ask Alan
That's
to
what
do it.
we-
Yeah.
That's what we paid Spicer for.
Let them word it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then we can critique it. My hope was to be able to wrap this up and then, well, he could, because we've got to get a
He's got it.
version two.
He's got it, yeah.
Yeah, so we could get it included and do a modification.
So I put a star at the bottom saying add state parks.
Yeah,
And
put
then
it,
we wanted to confirm the 9,700.
right. And we want to do that, I believe, after state land. The next item would be state parks and then go on to county parks. That seemed like the right flow. Rest of that
And there's
paragraph,
also-
okay?
Well, there's, it's very minor in terms of acreage, that the state-owned boat access sites, that's all added to it.
Right.
Which is, there's a lot of people that come to this county to use those
Use
for
those.
fishing. And there's,
We
what,
could-
6 of those, I think, plus the port in Port Austin.
We could put those after county parks or in between
Uh,
county parks and state parks.
The way the state is structured, that's considered park, state park, so you could add that with
So it would be
2 state parks, yeah.
Right, make that notation, okay?
So it's two state parks, 1 state harbor, and 6 state boat launches are missing.
Are all the game areas included here? They are to my knowledge.
That looks pretty like a thorough list. Yeah.
Nothing stated in error in here.
In fact, I'm surprised Fish Point's in Huron County. I thought that was all in Tuscola County, but
Point missing.
yeah, none of it's in
None of it's in
Huron
Huron.
County.
Mhm.
So that's,
That's
they,
needs to be
they,
stricken.
it needs to be stricken out.
That's all the ones that's-
But Verona, Gagetown, and Walpole Bay, those are, I think, the 3,
Fishtown game area.
Fish
Or
Fish
Point.
Point.
Yeah.
state thing.
Each town would be sound like county too.
No,
Each would be close to those.
but part of it, I believe, goes north into Huron.
I think I think he's right, it might be in both counties.
I can look it up. I think it's
Well, again, it's something,
But basically, Forestville goes right through it.
Gagetown's the school.
Yeah, into
Yeah,
school town,
when you
don't
see
cross
about a mile from the county line, it might go that far.
Gagetown's the school county.
Right,
It's not basically Forestville.
yeah, but
South
it goes,
county line.
But some
Yeah,
of the
it's
lines
a
are-
mile past the county line.
Goes north
Yeah,
and it
because
goes
you're
south.
online is the.
county line, yeah. So if it's north of Huron line, then it's
Mhm. So
definitely in
it's a
Huron
mile.
County.
Well, that's what I'm saying about, I didn't think it came north, but I don't have a map.
Yeah, I'm not sure on either, so if there's a better, look it up. That'd be what, Grant Township?
No,
Or is it Brookfield?
Grant goes up to Gagetown.
Alta Grant.
Grant is east of Gagetown.
Yes, Gagetown State Game Area goes all the way up above Bach Road, 3/4 of a mile, almost to Mount McAllen. I was right. Yeah, that's on there. Okay, now we're good. All right, county parks, how's that paragraph look? Should we slip anything in here under county parks that, we've discussed this a little bit, not really in depth here yet, but there is a, desire to expand county parks if the opportunity arises? What's your thoughts, George?
I guess that would depend on, you know, what the planned improvements, what's in the county recreation plan.
Yeah, instead of saying that, just reference the county recreation plan.
Okay. So just reference to it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's already,
Yeah, I'd leave it out there.
Okay. How about the airport paragraph? Jeff, on the verbiage, the zone outlines a 10-mile radius within Huron County. It's now oblong, is it not? Not really a radius anymore.
It's 10-mile radius.
In a circle?
Yeah, but it covers into other counties, so
Okay.
it's a 10-mile radius, yeah. The old one was a bow tie.
How about it became more of an oval now?
There's airport approach, there's approach angles, but there's just restriction for a 10-mile radius, basically. Within that, there's
General.
different parameters, but.
Yeah, general restriction, and there are different elevations, different angles.
Correct.
Everybody good with that one then? ITC thumb loop, page 111.
I have an issue with that. It does not mention, so I would like to add the ITC loop transverses 4 county zone townships, including Sebring, Brookfield, Windsor, and Siegel. And 4 south zone townships, Oliver, Colfax, Verona, and Paris.
Okay. I would like that also included, our self-zone townships.
That would be fine. There's 4 of them that I know of. Maybe I'm in error.
All right, come in 4 again?
The 4 are Oliver, Colfax, Verona, and Paris.
That's correct to my recollection. Anybody know any different? Anything else on that paragraph, Mr. Walker?
Last sentence, I think the word future should be removed.
Why?
That's implying there's gonna be future green energy in Huron County. We do not know that.
Well, you're saying that the last, I thought you stuck the last one on the page, but you're saying the last one in that.
Last
sentence on the
roof,
I'm
yes.
sorry.
Yeah, it could be, could provide for expansion expansion of energy into the future if needed. Something like that.
And it may not be green energy.
Right, it can be used for any type of generation. How do we want to word it after the word county? Which can provide for future energy generation sources.
Did you say potential?
I could be right in saying
No, I
potential.
didn't hear what word you said, I'm sorry.
After the word county, could provide for future energy generation facilities. How's that? Yes, no, maybe?
Fine.
You good with that, Dan? Okay, water lines. Anybody have anything there? I think the only thing really needed to mention was the fact that we don't have jurisdiction over it. That's made clear. Okay, the next page would be 129, I do believe. Yes.
On the maps,
Okay, which one?
map for Sherman Township, I don't see where the map number is. It's toward the end of the map, it's the second one from the end, I believe. It'd be nice to have the water line that runs through Sherman Township reflect actual location, which is right along US 25. Not out into the other sections that it shows in there, so. And just align it to US 25 is basically all we have to do to make it accurate.
What sections?
It would be sections 6, 7, 8, 19, 20, 29, and 32. Right now it's running through 6, 7, 18, 19, 30, and 31. It does.
So it just needs to be moved tighter to the right
Correct.
shore.
Just needs to follow the highway.
Okay.
If I'm not correct, that's exactly where it runs.
Yeah, I believe you're right on that. Michaela, can you make a note of that to question that with Alan?
And it goes into Wagner Park too, Bob. Wagner Park, White Rock, and Summer Haven.
Wagner Park,
No,
it feeds Wagner Park.
Yeah, see, it needs to be
Yeah.
moved over, and it basically runs parallel with M25, so it needs to go further. to
But
the-
yeah, it basically runs the shoreline.
Oh, all right. Yeah. And it's on the, between the highway and the shore, if I'm not
Right.
mistaken. There's nothing on the west side of the road.
It's on both sides.
Oh, it is on both sides,
Mhm.
okay. I'm wrong there.
I think if you just run it alongside of
Yeah.
25, you're
For
good
this
enough.
map, for-
Yeah, it'd be a lot more accurate than what it currently is.
Yep. I don't see any problem with that. Okay. Last page, I believe, is 129, that we need to deal with. Oh, no, there's one left over. first paragraph is good here, because that hasn't happened in a good number of years. That's why it's such a big project now. Any thoughts on 129?
Yes.
Jim Bush.
Third paragraph, first line, the monitoring process to be conducted annually. This is a suggestion that the word to be eliminated and that should be conducted annually.
Should or shall?
Shall, well, shall makes it sound like you are going to do it. Should makes it like it is now, sort of optional. But the monitoring, I'm just saying that it should be, it says it's to be conducted, which is the same as shall, but that should be conducted annually. It should be done. How often it is done, you know, not necessarily true. So I'm just saying those two words, take out to and put that should. Just a personal preference,
For the rest of the members think.
I agree with Bob on that one.
What was that?
I agree with Bob on that one.
Alright, we'll make that change.
Also on, yep, I got some more. On the fourth paragraph where it comes down to, the fourth line, the evaluation involves two considerations. And for your English teachers or people that want to be English, I think after consideration there should be a semicolon there. And then it said, first, the effectiveness of the techniques by which the recommendations were implemented will be examined. And then it has a period, and then it says then, and that, I think then should be replaced with secondly. You got first and second.
Okay. Everybody else good with that? What's next? Anybody else have anything on 129? Move on to 130.
Presents opportunities to support proposed capital improvements.
Second
Down
paragraph.
on line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Seventh line, right after conservation fund.
Uh-huh.
Remove the word and, because you have and at the next one.
Okay.
And then under, is that okay?
Yes.
And then under regional cooperation, it says development, growth, and changes in all of the municipality, it should be municipalities,
Right.
TIES. And then on the second line, Huron County will affect the quality of life and growth within county zone townships and self-zone townships, and vice versa. What self-zone townships do can affect the livelihood of others, as ours may affect them.
Yeah, they could just merely stipulate, and Huron County will affect quality of life and growth within all townships within the county.
Okay?
What do the rest do you think on that?
Absolutely.
All right, go back and reread the whole page now, let's make sure we're good with all the rest of it. The first paragraph, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 line from the bottom, starts out, Planning Act, the Planning Commission would be the coordinating arm, works the various agencies. That's terrible verbiage there.
That works with various agencies.
That works? Yes. Everybody good with that? Makes a lot better sense. I like a bunch of fixed otherwise.
Excuse me, what did you change?
Add the word that between arm and works.
Oh, okay. Or you could put just working.
Yeah,
Working with.
add the word with after works.
Yep.
What do you think? Anything else on 131? 132.
Just to each to Bob's point, they did use the word should.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They have it right in this one.
Okay.
We're consistent now.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Tembush.
In the conclusion, very first statement there, the Huron County Planning Commission has discussed and examined issues regarding the future of the county. In addition to receiving valuable input from county residents in the form of a public survey, I would like to include in that, just as we did back on page 101, I believe, comma, after the survey, comma, referendum voting, and it already, I had, and public comment, but public comment from the people in the gallery that we received. So what I'm saying is put a comma behind survey instead of a period. Add referendum vote or voting and public comment.
How about referendum votes and public comments?
Okay.
Anybody have anything else on 132? I want to say thank you. I'm glad we got to it. Jeff and Michaela will coordinate with Alan and get draft number 2 in the process. Anyway, thank you. I feel like a big weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Mr. Miller, are you ready to give us an update?
Sure. Currently, we're still in our information gathering phase, plus we're kind of talking to public officials and as we meet them on the streets and talk and see what their concerns are. Our survey total so far, as of this morning, Alan from Spicer told me there was 153 responses online. Downstairs in the clerk's office, where we put a whole bunch of surveys too, there's probably like 25 or so. Don't know what the libraries have brought in. We'll go back and revisit that in about a month after people have a chance to kind of look around. And we don't expect a ton of responses from the libraries, but we should get some. All told, according to what Spicer has seen in the past and other mitigation plans around the state, we're doing pretty decent on our public input. We're going to keep the written surveys out till about the 22nd or so of February, maybe a little bit longer, but approximately that date. And the online survey is going to stay open into March till like the 14th, kind of in that area. That gives almost a good 60 days of comment for public input. And it doesn't mean we're going to stop accepting public input, we're just going to stop the survey portion of it. So, having talked with a couple of people, when I talked to the Mad Axe DPW supervisor, Mr. Beauchard, about a few things that they've done to alleviate some flooding issues in and around town, as part of our overall strategies that we do when we're trying to mitigate things, we have to figure out how to actually stop things and mitigate them. With FEMA's input and things, we're going to have a bunch of different inputs. And he kind of gave me some things that they had done, where when Consumers Power built their new building here in town, between the things that they were doing with the new building and then some lift stations for sewer and water that they put together, and just changing elevations and a few things, change some floodplain strategies for them and some groundwater removal strategies. So those kind of things that we're trying to input to bring back to you guys as a part of when we put the plan together and we identify the problems that we have in the county, what can we do about them? And that's kind of the things that I'm trying to try and help bring some of those ideas back to the table for you guys to give your input to what you actually want to see as part of our strategies. Another thing that we were talking about with some of the people around the county is invasive species and how it affects our actual infrastructure in the county. Everybody knows about the dead ash trees all over the county. I know if you live over by Harbor Beach and you live any place between Wagner Park and probably up towards Port Hope, anytime there's ice, wind, or snow storms, anything like that, power goes out. And a lot of that has to do with the invasive species killing the ash trees and then falling on power lines. One of my personal things to put in the plan is that how do we help our citizens by see if we can't figure out how to remove some of those problems like trees near the power lines that are dead and dying because of invasive species, and what if anything can we work with anybody to stop some of that stuff from coming into our county. Phragmites are another huge problem that we all know about that cause different problems to water intakes and other things. So I'm kind of looking into some of those natural aspects of things that we can do too to put into plan. And really that's kind of where we're at. I'm gathering all those things up, and we're going to get to a point here within a month or two where we can start throwing stuff on the table and going, this is what our citizens have identified that they think our problems are. This is what we think our problems are. And now we can work on what are our strategies and what can we do to lessen the impacts of these things, make them go away altogether, and what kind of strategies going forward can we use to make our community a little bit safer and a little bit easier to recover from if we have disasters. Part of what you're doing today with the master plan and some of the discussions you've had with the public hearing today about wind energy and some other things that you do and just those overall type of things that you keep talking about here are all part of the things that we'll be looking for in making ordinances, suggesting plans for things, working with the farming communities and those things to strengthen our community into what we want it to look like and making some of those things that we want to stop that we consider problems not being here. So we're doing real well. We're moving right forward. We haven't spent a ton of money on our plan right now. We're probably about $5,000 or $6,000 into a $35,000 process, and it'll ramp up as we keep going forward. We haven't gotten the costs for the surveys and things of that nature. So I'm processing all that stuff. I'm required to update the state of Michigan's Emergency Management Homeland Security Division, their hazardous mitigation portion of this. Quarterly, they have to get a report from us on what we're doing, how we're spending our money, what we spent it on, what progress we're making, and whether we consider ourselves on time. And on time means the end of the grant period, which is a total of 3 years from this time we started to the time we stop. And again, I've said before, I've got a more aggressive timeline to be done and over with this because it could stretch on forever if we let it. My original 14-month time frame is probably not going to be realistic because of some of the things I'm hearing out of FEMA, where they want different strategies for different communities. So if we have the same problem on one side of the county that we have on the other side of the county, they want it community specific. So whatever works in Seawing may not be what they want to see in Harbor Beach. It might be a different strategy for each one, although it's the same exact problem. So take the trees, for instance. And Seawing, they might have a clear-cut plan to take it back 60 feet, where in Harbor Beach, they only want to, they've got another plan to just tell people they can't plant there at all, and there's other things. So those just, for say, that's not something that we're suggesting anyway do, but that's what they're looking for. They're looking for different strategies for different areas where, and everybody knows in our county, the rocky portion of the shore on one side of the county and the beaches on the other side don't necessarily have the same kind of strategies to make those places useful to us and how we recover from disasters. So in a simple, real nutshell, that's kind of where we're at. And we're always welcoming community input. We're always welcoming community's inputs to those problems. And like Mr. Tenbush said, please take that survey. It does have questions in there that may seem kind of ridiculous, but they are important. Our next step after we get to that is going to be taking all the things that they've identified as problems and ranking them from 1 down to whatever we think we can handle in our plan. And those are not necessarily, this is not going to be a law that says that these are the things we're going to do. They're going to be suggestions for us to bring back to other committees and commissioners and communities to put ordinances in places or make suggestions, or we help them try to figure out how to find money to mitigate the problems. So we're working forward, and I think we're right on time. And I think within 18 months, we'll have ourselves a really fine plan and be in place, and then it's just a matter of keeping it updated and using it for its purpose, which is to lessen the impacts of any kind of a man-made or natural disaster or other problems that we see in our community. If there are any questions, please feel free to contact me, and we'll go from there.
All right, Mr. Timbush, has a question.
I just have one question. On the notification of your website of where to go find the survey, has that been forwarded to all local press?
Yes, there was press releases went out to to WLEW, press release went out to the Tribune, and went out to the Huron County View. We also, via me, I forwarded that on to Tuscola County's Emergency Management and Sand Lacs County Emergency Management, because we are required by law to coordinate with them as a part of this plan. So we can't just transfer our province south, or you know. And it's been said, we're a peninsula and a peninsula, so we do have our own special needs here, and we don't have a lot of places to go north to ask for help. So.
Thank you. Don't get very good answers from the fish.
Well, sometimes you do. Sometimes the best answers are the ones that make the most sense coming from
That's
fish.
true. Yeah. That's true. Can't argue with that.
They're on the plate, they taste good.
Yeah. I understand.
We're only 25 at a time now, because they just lowered the number.
Right, right. Well, I understand completely. You know, you put a kind of an aggressive agenda there. You'd like to get it done in 14 months, and it's probably not gonna happen. I had the same.
Right, but I find if you're a little more aggressive with your timelines and you have to extend, instead of being lesser with it, you're actually, you can deal with a month delay as opposed to pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back. So, and I have a very busy office lately, and there's a lot of things going on the 911 side of my job where we're making things move forward on texting, and we've got other things coming forward that are going to help our citizens in our county. So I'm kind of trying to do two full-time jobs at one time, and that's why sometimes when I get aggressive with things, it just makes my life a little more condensed and a little easier sometimes, because it's focused and it's on and it's moving forward, and I can see some progress. That's always my wish. I work with the state and feds, so it's a pipe dream at most. So, but it does kind of help me move along a little bit. So,
Yeah.
thanks.
Understand completely. Thank you. Moving on. Item 7C. I see we have a gentleman here tonight from Apple Blossom. Would you like to step up and give us an update of the situation, please?
Andrew Johnson, Facility Manager at Sempra Apple Blossom. Quick update for you. Tentative sound testing for early May. First 2 weeks of May is what we're looking at. And then the additional information request, we're still waiting on the formal request. I believe coming from Mr. Smith on the additional information requested from our earlier presentation last month.
Yeah, I just talked to Jeff earlier tonight. Make sure you get that promptly.
Very good. We just started working on some of the stuff that we kind of know, and then we'll get the nitty gritty from Jeff.
Okay, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, 7D, commercial solar ordinance facilities. Let's hit that real quick. We got a few minutes yet. See if we can't get through definitions. Get those established. We go to the paperwork. Let me know when you're ready. Well, no, we got the others in the past too. Tim Bush and, Peck. Tim Bush, you want to give us a quick overview on what you put together?
Yes, included in all of the definitions, I'm assuming we're talking about definitions right now?
Correct.
Is not only.
Specify which one is yours, so everybody's on the same page.
Mine is the one that has in bold print, and also has some yellow, red indications as to what particular ordinance I retrieved the information from.
Right.
And it's all in alphabetical order, much as many of them were. And it also identified on each of those pages, if I didn't include exactly what that particular ordinance read by word. If it was too wordy, I just said, here's the page to go to look at. So, and I recommend that we go down through it, because every thing that Terry had on there is also included in mine. Mine just has the additional definitions from other ordinances.
One thing I'd like to make clear before we run down through this, let's establish the definition for a solar facility. Like we do on wind, we got a wind energy conversion facility. I'd like to do solar similar. I think we should have two designations, either industrial or commercial. Solar power facility would be my suggestion, and then residential solar power facility.
Those are in there. Like I said, it's in alphabetical order.
Right, right. I just wanted to establish that so that we reference that verbiage throughout. Use that same abbreviation. I want to make sure everybody's good with that first. Because there was a little confusion in Terry's there. Everybody good with that?
You don't have to repeat what you're trying to say.
Well, when we reference anywhere in definitions or zoning ordinance, when we get to that, we want to call it either commercial or industrial, but I don't care which. Solar, power generation facility, or a residential solar power generation facility. So it's clear to the public and everybody else what we're talking about.
And these, and Bob, you said those terms are already in here? I
Yeah,
don't see them.
Industrial.
Oh, industrial. What about the residential?
That's private.
That's under private.
Oh, okay. I would, that's fine, except I would, to say private facility, that's clunky. I just go with private system, like he's got.
Private solar energy system.
Yeah.
Okay. What's everybody else think? Good with it? Okay. All right. Rip on down through there.
Abandonment, I have 3 of them there. The first one is very simple. Any facility that is left in a state where it is no longer producing power. Personally, I like Kochville's, to give up, discontinue, withdraw from. Any energy facility, or one, it says utility scale solar facility shall be deemed to be abandoned when it ceases to produce energy on a continuous basis for 12 months, or the county representative responsible for enforcing the ordinance responsibly believes that the facility is not producing energy. A certified letter has been sent to the last known address of the landowner and the owner of the facility, and either party has failed to provide substantial evidence that the facility is still generating energy within 60 days of the certified letter's receipt.
I think that's pretty bulky.
Yes, and I think that addresses also to what the ordinance can read.
Right.
Once you get the verbiage there.
It's the definition, not an ordinance item. I would say the Kochville one is pretty good, but I'm not comfortable with the 12 months. I think it'd be shorter time span. What do you folks think?
6 months?
6 months?
6 months?
I'm good with that. 6 months work for everybody?